Is a psychology professor and spiritual leader here in San Diego. Please welcome back to the show my good friend Ayesha Suneja is here. Ayesha, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Wow, I can't believe it's been 2 months since we've had the chance to chat here. A lot's changed in a couple months.
It has. Thanks so much for having me back.
Yeah, it's great to have you now. Today our topic is around ego.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times people, when they hear the word ego, they think like Donald Trump or like, someone who has a big ego, this guy, oh, he's all ego. But it's not quite that, right?
Right.
What is the ego?
So that's a great question. I think one of the things we can talk about is the ego versus soul consciousness, right?
Okay.
So the ego is kind of this conditioned self, this part of our personality, the part of our conditioning that we start to see as ourselves, as our own identity. And I think a great question is, how close is that to our true identity?
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to ask you, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Your ego would probably step in and you would say something like this. You would say, this is my name, this is my gender, this is perhaps my religion or my ethnicity, my cultural background. You might even talk about your education or your occupation or the roles that you play,
right,
even the possessions that you have. That is all what we would consider our ego. Our egos form this very conditioned identity of who we are.
For the most part, the ego should play a very small role in our existence. Mm-hmm. And I think what is happening is that it's playing a very big role. Mm-hmm. And when we say ego, we say, well, focused on yourself. Anytime you say I need, I want, right? That's something that's originating from the ego.
Very
Whereas
true.
if you say something like, hey, I want to make sure everyone's comfortable, should we turn the AC down or something like that, different origination point for something like that. Would you agree with that?
Ego does serve a purpose. The ego's purpose is to perceive the world. And so we allow it to perceive the world. We don't, however, allow it to make decisions for us.
There you go.
So we can have the perception through the ego, and then we can choose to have decision-making from our higher self, or from what we call that soul consciousness.
Right.
And the problem really with the ego is that when I was describing you or myself and describing my gender or my social status or my possessions or my race, my ethnicity, the problem with that is that that differentiates me from you, which separates me from you.
Right.
And then from that perspective, I could say, you might be better than me, or taller than me, or richer than me, or smarter than me. So there's this differentiation and this separateness that comes from the ego. The ego's main objective is to separate, is to see itself as an individual. It lives in the past and in the future. Soul consciousness, however, lives right here in the present. And when I see myself as a soul, I see my identity as from a very different place. If I really asked myself, who am I? And that's the big question, right? Really, who am I? The answer would be, I am a soul. And not just a soul, but a beautiful, peaceful, powerful soul. And when I see myself from that perspective, then I see you and I see everybody else as a beautiful, peaceful, powerful soul. So there is no differentiation. There is no discrimination. There is no anger or hatred or separateness.
And let's use some really simple examples. If you're standing in line, let's say somewhere, it could be anywhere, the DMV, to get something to eat, and someone cuts in front of you. And maybe they did it and they didn't mean to do it. Or maybe they did do it on purpose. Maybe they saw you and you saw them look at you and they still just kind of nudged in front of you. Immediately, that heart-racing feeling that you're getting is your ego saying, this person thinks I'm not important.
Right.
And all of a sudden you have your ego telling you, you are important, you need to do something about this, you need to be angry about this, and it just starts flushing you with all of this, all these different chemicals in your brain. But if you have some awareness, some conscious awareness, you can actually take a moment and go, all right, that's just the ego, it's fine. If this guy really wants to be in front of me, one place in front of me in line, he can have it.
Sure.
Because it's bigger than that. Life is bigger than this one little instance.
Right.
And that's where the ego, I think, really gets to us on a daily basis, is all those little things that we blow way out of proportion. I mean, way out of proportion. I've seen people go off on other people for some of the smallest things. Imagine all the things that happen in traffic in San Diego on a daily basis. People going crazy, honking their horns, yelling at other people. That's not your soul that you're hearing from there.
Well, you're absolutely right, because your soul has a very different vibrational frequency. And you can always tell from your body what emotional state you're in, right? Your emotions are really very easily accessible in your body. So you were talking about whether it be anger or frustration or even anxiety. Those are very low level vibrational frequency emotions that are filtered only through the ego. So what is the main emotion of the ego is fear.
Right.
And whatever is related to fear, anger, anxiety, resentment, bitterness, jealousy, competition. And the soul's vibrational frequency is that of love. And whatever is related to love, whether it be compassion, kindness, openness, non-judgment, receiving, allowing, manifesting, creating. All of that is a vibrational frequency of love, which is from the soul. So whatever you're feeling in your body, you always know whether you're vibrating from the ego, because of the emotional state that you're carrying, or whether you're vibrating from your soul, which is a much higher level of vibrational frequency. Love, peace, joy.
Yeah, and the borders, the boundaries. I mean, the soul's boundless. Whenever you feel fearless, whenever you feel like taking on a challenge or doing something new or doing something you've never done or even dreamed that you would be able to do, versus constantly telling yourself, I can't.
I agree. I think the biggest step really is self-awareness. Tapping into your body, knowing the emotional state that you're in, and then, you know, thinking about how much you talked a little bit about change, right? We don't want things to change. The ego wants things to stay consistent.
Right.
Its survival depends on us staying consistent. And our soul thrives on change and openness and creation. So there are two very big conflicting messages going on. But if we stay aware and realize that the ego is not here to really control us. We spend a lot of energy and a lot of time trying to control others, and if we could use that same energy trying to manage or control or even change ourselves, can you imagine the difference we'd make in the world?
Fantastic stuff from Ayesha Suneja. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time. You're an amazing flower. I love to see you blossom every time you come on the show. Stick around for more Smarter San Diego TV, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else.